My name is Noah Reed. When I was 8 years old, my parents died in a car accident on a rainy night. After that, I grew up alone in our old family house, raised mostly by my aunt until I became old enough to live there by myself. For years, the house stayed silent, like it was holding its breath. But when I turned 18 and returned to live there alone, I began hearing creepy sounds inside the walls. At first, I thought it was only the old wood, the wind, or my own grief. But soon, the sounds started calling my name in my mother's voice. My name is Noah Reed, and this is the story of the house that never let me go. I was only 8 when my parents died on a dark, rainy road outside town. After their funeral, everyone told me the house was only bricks, wood, and memories. But even as a child, I felt something breathing inside its walls. Years later, when I returned alone, the house remembered me, and it started whispering my name. The first room I entered was my parents' bedroom. Nothing had changed since the day they died. My mother's scarf still hung on the chair, and my father's watch still rested beside the bed. Dust covered everything like a thin gray blanket. I stood there quietly, feeling like I had walked into a memory that was still alive. Then the floor creaked behind me. At first, I told myself the sound was only the house settling. Old houses always made noises, especially at night. But this creak was slow, careful, and heavy. It moved across the hallway behind me like someone taking one step at a time. I turned around quickly, but the hallway was empty. Still, I knew something had stopped walking because I had looked. That night, I slept in my old childhood room. The walls were still painted pale blue, with faded stars stuck to the ceiling. Around midnight, I woke to a soft humming sound. It was the lullaby my mother used to sing when I was scared. The sound came from the hallway outside my door, but my mother had been dead for 10 years. I held my breath and stared at the door. The humming stopped the moment I moved. For a few seconds, the whole house became silent. Then the door handle slowly turned from the other side. It moved left, then right, like someone was testing it. I wanted to scream, but my voice stayed trapped in my throat. I grabbed a baseball bat from under my bed and opened the door. The hallway outside was empty. No footsteps, no humming, no person waiting in the dark. Only the smell of rain and old wood filled the air. But at the far end of the hallway, my parents' bedroom door was open. I knew I had closed it earlier. When I stepped into my parents' room, my stomach turned cold. The chair with my mother's scarf had moved. Now it was placed directly in front of the bed, facing it. It looked like someone had been sitting there, watching the empty mattress. The scarf moved slightly, though there was no wind. I tried to convince myself I was tired. I told myself grief could turn silence into voices. Then I heard 3 knocks from inside the wall. Slow, clear, and close. Without thinking, I knocked back 3 times. A second later, something inside the wall knocked 4 times. The next morning, I searched the house for rats or broken pipes. That was when I found the basement door locked from the outside. I did not remember locking it. The key was still hanging on a nail beside the door, covered in dust. When I touched it, something below the floor scratched hard against wood. It sounded like nails dragging from the other side. The basement smelled exactly like the night my parents died. Wet clothes, mud, and cold rain. I had not smelled that scent in years, but my body remembered it. The stairs groaned under my feet as I went down. At the bottom, something small rolled across the floor. It was one of my old toy cars. I found a cardboard box in the corner with my name written on it. Inside were drawings I had made as a child. Most showed my parents, our house, and me smiling between them. But one drawing made my hands shake. It showed me sleeping in bed while a tall black figure stood behind my door. I did not remember drawing it. Under the drawings, I found my father's old tape recorder. It was cracked, dusty, and should not have worked. But when I pressed play, the wheels began to turn. For a few seconds, there was only static. Then my father's voice whispered, "Noah, don't answer her." The tape clicked off by itself. I ran upstairs so fast I almost fell. My father's warning kept repeating in my head, "Don't answer her." Then, from my childhood room, I heard my mother's voice call softly, "Noah!" It sounded warm, sad, and exactly like I remembered. My mouth opened before I could stop it. "Yes," I whispered. The moment I answered, every light in the house went out. The air became freezing cold. From inside the walls, hundreds of tiny whispers began repeating my name. "Noah, Noah, Noah." And beneath those voices, something laughed like it had finally been invited in. When the lights came back, I was standing in front of the family photo in the living room. It showed my parents and me on my 8th birthday. But the picture was different now. Behind us, in the corner of the room, stood a tall, dark shape. Its head was bent toward my mother's ear, and its long fingers rested on my father's shoulder. I called my Aunt Clara and asked if my parents had ever mentioned strange sounds. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then her voice became small and afraid. She told me my mother had heard whispers before the accident. She said my father wanted to leave the house, but something always made them stay. Aunt Clara told me there was a crawl space behind the hallway closet. My father had sealed it before he died. I found the closet and pulled away the old coats. Behind them was a wooden panel nailed shut. From behind that panel, I heard my mother's lullaby again. This time it sounded closer. I pried the panel open with shaking hands. A smell of dust, rot, and old perfume rushed out. The crawl space was too small for an adult, but something had been living inside it. There were scratch marks everywhere. At the back, I saw a pile of old cassette tapes. Each one had my name written on it. I played one of the tapes in the living room. At first, I heard only my own breathing as a child. Then came the sound of my bedroom door opening. Small footsteps crossed the floor. A woman's voice whispered, "He looks like them." Then a deeper voice answered, "Not yet." That night, I set my phone camera in the hallway. I wanted proof that I was not losing my mind. For hours, nothing happened. Then, at 3:13 a.m., the camera recorded a tall shadow moving past my door. It walked without footsteps, and it stopped when it reached my room. In the morning, I found muddy footprints outside my bedroom. They were large, heavy, and familiar. My father used to wear boots with a broken left heel. These prints had the same broken mark. They led from my door to the basement, but they stopped halfway down the stairs. I followed the footprints into the basement. They ended at a brick wall I had never paid attention to before. The bricks looked newer than the rest of the basement. When I touched them, the wall felt warm. Then something knocked from inside. This time, it knocked exactly 3 times. I broke the first brick with a hammer. A cold wind blew out from the hole, though there was no space behind it. Then I saw something inside the wall. It was a small metal box wrapped in my mother's scarf. My hands trembled as I pulled it free. Inside was my father's final note. The note was written in my father's handwriting. It said the house had chosen me when I was a child. My parents had heard it speaking through the walls for months. It copied voices, memories, and even footsteps. My father wrote that if I ever heard my mother call me, I must never answer. But I already had. I ran to the front door, but it would not open. The windows would not break, no matter how hard I hit them. My phone had no signal. Every clock in the house stopped at 3:13. Then the walls began to knock together, one room after another. It sounded like the house had a heartbeat. In the dining room, the table had been set while I was upstairs. 3 plates, 3 glasses, and 3 chairs. One for me, one for my mother, one for my father. At the center of the table was a birthday cake with 8 candles burning. I had not been 8 for 10 years. The candles flickered as the room grew colder. Then the birthday song began. It came from every corner of the dining room at once. My mother's voice sang softly, but another voice sang under it. That second voice was deep, cracked, and hungry. When the song ended, all 8 candles went out together. From upstairs, I heard crying. It sounded like my mother sobbing in her bedroom. Every part of me wanted to run to her, but my father's note burned in my mind. Copy's voices. So I stood at the bottom of the stairs and did not move. The crying stopped. For a moment, the house became silent again. Then I heard something moving on the stairs. Not walking, crawling. One slow limb at a time, dragging across the wood. I stepped backward as a long shadow spilled down the wall. The tape recorder suddenly turned on by itself in the living room. My father's voice came through the static again. This time he sounded terrified. "Noah, burn the scarf. It is holding the door open." I looked toward my parents' bedroom. My mother's scarf was no longer on the chair. I found the scarf in my childhood room. It was lying across my pillow like someone had placed it there with care. The room smelled like my mother's perfume. For one painful second, I wanted to hold it. Then the closet door behind me opened slowly. A voice whispered, "My sweet boy." I did not turn around. I knew if I looked at it, I might believe it was her. The voice kept whispering my name, softer and sweeter each time. I grabbed the scarf with shaking hands and ran downstairs. Behind me, something screamed. The scream did not sound human anymore. I threw the scarf into the kitchen sink and lit a match. For a moment, the flame refused to touch it. Then the scarf caught fire with a sharp hiss. The entire house shook like something had been wounded. From inside the walls, voices screamed in my parents' voices. But this time, I did not answer. As the scarf turned to ash, the front door unlocked with a loud click. Cold night air rushed into the house. I ran toward the open doorway without looking back. Behind me, my mother's voice begged me to stay. Then my father's voice joined her. But underneath both voices, the hungry thing whispered, "You are mine." I escaped that night, but I never truly left the house. The police found no fire damage, no broken wall, and no tapes. They said grief had made me imagine everything. But sometimes, when rain hits my window at night, I hear 3 soft knocks, then 4. And after that, my mother's voice whispers from the dark, "Noah, are you there?"